Haghighat-joo looks to become the fastest Canadian to achieve a world title in her 4th pro bout.
Yeah, this is an exciting one. We're making history, a statement for the future. I think there's going to be more to come, and this is just the start.
Sara's Army is going to be out here in full force, but I think this is as close to a 50-50 as you're going to get in a world title fight. You've got Lupita Bautista, 3-time champ, but Sara hasn't really fought anybody quite like that.
She's kind of paving a new road for females. Do your amateur career here, get international experience, and turn pro, and you can fight for a world title very, very quickly if you're that good.
Got it, soak it up.
Sara Haghighat-joo.
I am Sara Haghighat-joo, and I am the light flyweight world champion. I would say my brother, definitely, because it was in the family. He was already attending a boxing gym, and I was doing a ton of basketball, volleyball, like team sport oriented, and getting kind of sick of it. And so my parents, my brother were like, why don't you try boxing? So I went to the boxing gym with my brother the one day and absolutely fell in love. Within 6 months, I had my first fight, and then it was just a case of, okay, I have my first fight, I want to have my, I want to hit a tournament, I want to have 10 fights, I want provincial team, national team, and it just kept getting better and better from there. It was just constantly like, what's the next challenge? My dad was on the Iranian national team for wrestling, so combat sport was just in the family. I come from a Persian background, like they're savages, like they are all about fighting. And my parents both would always say like, like if you have an injury, like pretty much push through it until you win, and then you could cry about it later. And I was like, okay, so the mentality was fight.
My name is Sara Bailey. I'm the coach for Sara Haghighat-joo. I met Sara for the first time. I can't remember the exact date, but it was at a nationals in Quebec. And I seen her box, and her feet were moving all funny, and she was boxing Olympian at the time. And she had like 12 fights, and she did really well. If anything, she was like neck and neck, but her feet were all like contorted. So I said to her afterwards, I said, if you just fix your feet, you'd do well. And she goes, they're both fractured. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive, and that's how we got talking. And then at the time, I had a female win nationals and get best boxer of the tournament. So I started making my name, and then she came here to train, and everything kind of blossomed from there.
So I went to my first nationals, and Stevie, my current coach now, had seen me in Regina, Saskatchewan. I was fighting an 8-time national champion at the time, and we went the distance, and like everyone was like, oh my God, like who is this girl that has only 10 fights? She's from Vancouver, BC, we've never heard of her before, and she's going toe-to-toe with this 8-time national champion who eventually was an Olympian. And he came up to me like, you fight really well, you just move kind of funny, and I don't know what's up with your feet. And I was like, yeah, I'm fighting on 2 fractured feet, but I wasn't gonna miss my first nationals. Then a month later, I saw him again at another tournament in Quebec, and again, he came up to me and he's like, listen, like if you ever want training, like come to me, I'm in Ontario, like this is who I've had. And I looked him up and I was like, wow, like he's a really credible coach. So I came over in February of 2014, did a 2-week training camp, fell absolutely in love with the training, and then moved June of 2014. I moved to Ontario fully, so 10 years now.
When Stevie started coming around, like once they were in Ontario, and Steve was talking about, that she's gonna be the best, and she's the best, and things are changing here, and you need to look at women's boxing, and I think Steve was kind of pretty much the guy that really was pushing it. He had big aspirations like myself in building boxing and bringing bigger fights, and yeah, here we are. I'm Tyler Buxton, President of United Boxing Promotions. Sara's promoter from the beginning to the world title fight. Steve was training other guys, so Steve was around the pro scene. He came in as an amateur guy, but he made that transition to the pros and started working corners with a bunch of the other fighters. He was in Josh O'Reilly's corner and Wagner and all these other guys. It was in the conversation, and I kind of started bugging him, saying, let's forget this amateur stuff, let's make the transition. So it was kind of a back and forth, and we were joking about it probably for a couple of years now. That it's been been kind of brewing, and just like, but their question was like, how big can it actually get here? Like, is it worth signing here? Like, is the platform going to be able to sustain world title fights for her? And that was kind of the thing I always said, like, yeah, we can do it here.
There are opportunities available now in Ontario, and they haven't been there before. So not only do you have the right person with the right boxing toolkit, the right personality, the right charisma, you also have that person emerging with the right manager, the right promoter. But I think that's the example. You can fight here at home, you can win titles here at home, you can unify at home, and you can do that as a member of this community.
I've always had like little set goals for myself. I was never like, I'm gonna be a world champ or I'm gonna be an Olympian. It was always like, okay, I'm gonna have my first 5 fights and now hit 10 and provincial team, like I said, like now get on the national team. So training with Stevie, it took me 3 years with him to get to that goal, and we managed to get on the Canadian national team. And then from there it was like, okay, now let's win some international tournaments. So I managed to do that. Then slowly it became like, okay, Sarah, you're good enough. Like, let's start trying to qualify for the Olympics. But I always knew, and Stevie would always tell me, you're so suited to professional boxing. We started talking to promoters, and Tyler was interested, and we managed to make something work. And it's like, okay, a couple months later, got my debut.
We get ready to go for our ladies' fight of the night. 8 rounds scheduled, 2-minute rounds for the women.
We didn't want to necessarily sign to anyone. Stevie has a great relationship with both Dawn and Tyler, and they were able to make a fight-by-fight deal, so they were okay with that. And I told them, you know, I don't know if I even have a fan base, right? You know, pro boxing is all about bringing fans and selling tickets. I was like, I have no idea, because I'm not from Ontario. So let's do a fight-by-fight deal, and they trusted us. And you know, that first debut, a good crowd coming out, and from there it was like, okay, let's try the next one. Let's try the next one. And then we managed to get the world title for the 4th one, and that's when I decided to sign to them. I was just doubting Stevie the whole time. I was like, first of all, we're going into an 8-rounder. Everyone starts with a 4. Like, why am I doing 8? And like, I was questioning him the whole way through, panicking the whole way through. And he was bringing up names, all these Asians who had done it in the past. And I'm like, show me a Canadian who's done this, right? I don't want to hear about girls 10 years ago, right? And it was serious panic. But once I got in that ring, and after the first round, he's like, so how do you feel? And I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I have more than just 4 rounds. It just suits me so much better, and I just had to trust him. And I did, but at the same time, of course, I'm going to doubt him too, because it's pro boxing. Like, anything can happen with one punch. I got no headgear, it's small gloves. Like, why are we diving straight into this? But he knew better than I knew, like, you're ready.
I said, you're one of the best boxers in the world now. And as a professional, I said, there's no reason to waste time. Now, if you had told me then 4 fights in a world title, I would have said no. I would have said 8, 9, or 10. But after the second fight, I was like, okay, we're good.
They didn't want to waste time doing 4-rounders and all that kind of stuff. They want to make history. They want to make jumps. They want to get, she's got 150 amateur fights or something. She doesn't need a 4-rounder to learn how to do anything. And they wanted to prove that she's world class, and she is good enough to beat the world champions right now. They believed in themselves, they believed in their talents, and once we threw her in and she performed, like, you know what? They know what they're talking about. When you've only fought 3 rounds and all of a sudden you jump into 8, it's like you're doing more than what you've ever done, but it's more than double what you've ever done. Like, that's a huge, how do you prepare for it when you're just sparring and make that transition? And she did awesome, and the fans came out, and the support she had was huge. Like, okay, this girl can actually make a difference for not only for female boxing in Toronto. I think she makes a difference for all of boxing here in Toronto.
Seeing how many people were there for her pro debut, you know, against just kind of a run-of-the-mill opponent. It was really outstanding to see, and obviously a sign of the support in Sara's army, which was to come.
Well, after the first fight, I was feeling way more confident about it because, like, patience, maturity, calmness, like super relaxed, like didn't veer away from anything, was completely comfortable with the small gloves, was completely comfortable with the environment, like unbelievably relaxed with the whole thing. Whereas I've seen some pretty stellar men turn pretty quick with their debuts and stuff, which is understandable. It's a big moment, but she was fine. And then in her second fight, that girl was a little better than we anticipated, and that girl had a ton of experience, and Sara handled her with ease. And then we went to the States a couple of times, did some sparring with some really, you know, we sparred, Marlon Esparza at the time was unified, she had 3 of the 4 belts. We sparred with a couple of girls in Vegas who were either former world champs at higher weight classes. And I said, okay, there's no point wasting time. There's literally no point wasting time. And then it helped that we had a community behind us because, you know, if no one's watching, no one cares. So I felt like everything meshed at the right time.
You see Sara constantly controlling the distance as Perez comes forward.
And always circling after she punches.
Still undefeated, Sara Haghighat-joo.
For me, it was, I just felt so close to him, boxing. That's how I started. We did boxing together. That's how we bonded. And I felt like if I didn't have boxing, then I quite literally did lose him, right? So for me, I just felt so attached. And it had only been a couple weeks after his passing, and I had come straight from Olympic qualifiers, straight literally to his funeral. And I found out at the Olympic qualifiers, and it was a whole mess of things, but I got home, packed my bags, went straight to BC, and so I had no sparring. I hadn't trained properly, and this girl, like, she was incredible. She was number 5 in the world, and I constantly felt like every time I trained, every time I went for a run, whatever, he was with me, literally side by side. It's such a, like, I had never lost anyone close to me, so I never knew what grief was, but I just connected so much more with him, and that fight, I think it's definitely been my best fight ever, amateur pro, and it was almost flawless when I watch it back, and I just felt like he was there every step of the way. I'm literally getting goosebumps talking about it, but yeah, I had to do it. I had to do it for my parents, and I think they were really happy that I went through with it as well.
I tried to get her to pull out. I was arguing with her. Hey, Sara, let's leave it. Let's leave it. She goes, no, we're gonna do it, I'm like, come on, man, let's just push it back, December, February, doesn't matter. Let's just focus on family stuff. She goes, no. And she was calm, like it wasn't like a big ordeal. It wasn't until after the fight that she kind of broke down. Otherwise, she kept it together pretty good, but that's another reason why I knew she was made for pro boxing.
Yeah, and that girl was tough. That girl was not here to lose. She was here to make a statement and try to stop Sara in her tracks. So again, there was so much going on outside the ring too. For fighters to make that adjustment with all the stuff outside the ring that was going on, that was next level.
Even that made me think not to waste more time, just go straight to a world title fight. Because if she could handle that the way she did, as gracefully as she did, I'm like, there's no pressure is going to get to her.
For your winner, by unanimous decision, and still undefeated, Sara Haghighat-joo!
Tomorrow's main event, Sara Haghighat-joo, 3-0 as a pro, fighting for a world title in your 4th fight. How does it feel to be on the verge of Canadian boxing history?
Yeah, it's cool, it's fun. This is exactly what I've asked for. I've asked to go and move quick, and now tomorrow's the night. Tomorrow's the night to show everyone why I belong.
So with that 3rd fight, first of all, I wanted 10 rounds, and I was so upset that we went back to 8. It hurt my soul, but everyone that night had 8 rounds. It was just a thing. And in that 3rd fight, I actually wanted a world title fight. But I hadn't signed yet. It was a fight-by-fight deal, so it just didn't make sense, obviously, for United. And we were still in talks with other promoters as well. I would have never, ever signed with any other promoter in Ontario or Canada. I think United is by far the best. We were thinking more maybe States or whatever, and we were still waiting. And then Tyler came with this opportunity, and we jumped on it right away. I think it was November that he kind of like hinted and said, let's meet at a coffee shop. And we were kind of shocked when Stevie and I at that meeting were like, we did not expect that at all. We were just like, you know, he's gonna offer us a deal, whatever. But we didn't think a world title was gonna be on the table. And it was amazing. Immediately we were like, okay, yep, let's do it. We'll sign right now, like, where are the papers? And he's like, okay, like, and by December, I think it was like locked in where we knew this was gonna happen.
Listen, if we had pulled out of that fight, nobody would have said a word. Everyone would have been, I understand completely, I get it. But it also does help a promoter to know that someone's this legitimate, that what's it going to take for her to pull out of a fight? Do you know what I mean? And that helps a guy to make a move like that. Well, this is probably one of the most realist athletes I'm going to deal with who is professional. Like, that didn't make her pull out of a fight. I don't really have to worry about this person. Like, that probably helped a lot. I'd never asked him. Maybe he didn't even think about it consciously, but I'm sure that helped. I can set this fight up knowing, like, this is the real deal. This person's going to show up.
To be honest with you, it was, we kind of had like a verbal agreement at that point. She wasn't signed. So the pressure wasn't on me. It was on them, right? They're saying they're good enough for a world title. They're saying they're ready to go. It's a step-up fight. The pressure was all on them. They lost. It was like, okay, well, now you're not who you said you are, right? So we had a verbal agreement. Nothing was on paper until she won that fight.
I kept saying all week and all month, it's just another fight. It's just another Mexican. It's just another 10 rounds. It's just another show in Ontario. You try and downplay as much as you can. I was very impressed with her the fight week, like, calmest person in every room. Even on the day, nothing. Day before, day of the weigh-in, in the back, she was solid, man.
There's a lot going on, obviously. There's a lot riding on it. We're making a statement at the Toronto Casino, making a statement for United, making a statement for Toronto, for the company as a whole. There was a lot riding on it. And she had, you know, more or less just got signed, and here's the baton, you're leading the way now. Make history for us.
Sara Haghighat-joo tries to become the fastest Canadian in history to reach world title status as she goes after the WBA light flyweight championship.
She showed that she was world class, so there was no convincing the WBA that she qualified. It was just a matter of convincing Batista to come here, and we were able to do that.
Lupita Bautista has been there, has done that, and has been doing that for 6 years. If Sara can get through her, watch out.
Sara Haghighat-joo.
One jab at a time, one feint at a time, one lateral movement at a time.
So I took a really nasty headbutt in Las Vegas where a muscle kind of like in my eye went a couple degrees up and I started seeing doubles. And so if I see the person here, I saw a ghost above it and I was like, what is going on? Why is my eye doing this? And I knew it was from the headbutt. And I went to the doctors, I got all these checkups and they're like, yeah, this is just gonna take time for it to like level out eventually. And I was really nervous a week out from the fight, like, how am I gonna fight? How am I gonna do this? And Stevie was in my head telling me, you know, one arm, one leg, you'll be able to beat her, like just giving me all the confidence in the world. And I was like, I don't know. He's like, blindfolded, you'll beat her. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, seriously, I don't know how I'm gonna do this.
And up is good. Here and up is good. Touch gloves. Good luck to the both of you.
There was no concussion, no this. Once we got all that cleared, then it was just a case of, okay, how difficult is this going to be with a little bit of double vision? And it was fine. It was fine.
Probably after like the third or fourth round, I was like, okay, she just keeps doing this all night. She no problem. She stood there a couple times and wanted to show that she wasn't, you know, afraid of her and sat in the pocket and put on a show. But I think early on, I was like, okay, if she just follows the game plan and can stay focused. We already knew she could go 10 rounds, so I kind of was confident then. But it's boxing, so you're never really confident that they have it until it's done.
Watch with the head, ref! Watch with the head, ref! Turn off!
I'd say the only stressful part of that fight was a couple of times Sara was standing and trading. No, she was getting her head to the side, and but there was like, just box and move. Other than that, it was pretty okay. I think I would turn to Tyler every now and then, just like 3-1, 4-1. I think I had a 5-2, 5-3, 6-3, 7-3 is how I had it at the end. So I was pretty confident going into the last 2 rounds, even that we were okay.
You hear me? When you overhook, head under, walk her back to the rope, but hips down.
Here we go, they hear the clap. Now they leave it on the line.
Leave it on the line.
The exchange in the middle of the ring. Haghighat-joo versus Bautista. Huge blows to finish this fight. And there is the bell.
Great fight.
And now we wait for the judges' scorecards.
A little relief in the sense that I was either going to look like a genius or a lunatic that night because I was the one who pushed her everything.
Not only was it special to do that world title fight, but knowing that it was also history for both of them, it really added to the occasion.
Quickest to a world title in Canadian history. Take a bow. What a performance here tonight.
Honestly, when they handed me the belt, and you could kind of see it in some of the videos and pictures, I was like, oh, what's next? Like, immediately I was like, I'm over it. Like, although there was doubt and whatever, it's gonna be tough, I knew I won. And when I heard the scores, I was like, yeah, I definitely won. And they handed it to me, and I'm like, what's next? Like, because I'm not satisfied. Honestly, until I'm undisputed, I'm not going to be satisfied. So, on to the next.
The road to get here has been entertaining, and it's had its ups and downs, but that was an enjoyable night, and something I'll never forget. Not to put pressure on her, but she's kind of carrying the weight. She's paving a road for them and creating a path for them that hopefully trickles down, and there's more Saras that come up that are watching her and say, hey, I want to be just like her.